In today's video, we're going to go over this homemade tool that I made for a patient, all the different ways that it can be used to facilitate arm movement, and of course, everything you need to make one for yourself to add to your toolkit with your own arm rehab program. If you're new to this channel, I'm Tara, I'm a neurologic physical therapist, and on this channel we talk about anything and everything related to mobility, health, fitness, and mindset in the context of neurologic injury, with the end goal of empowering you with as many tools as possible to take ownership of your rehab and your health, to live an overall more active, mobile, pain-free, happier, healthier life. And all that said, let's go ahead and dive into the topic of today's video, and that is this arm skate. Now, I didn't invent this. This isn't anything new. A lot of you probably used one in therapy when you were in inpatient rehab. I see them a little less common in outpatient rehab, but it's basically just a platform with wheels on it. I put my own little spin on it and added this little gutter to the top of it. But basically what it does is it just provides a frictionless surface with these little wheels that are on the bottom. Now, usually the inspiration behind me going to the Home Depot or getting onto Amazon and trying to find a way to make a tool is because when you put the word rehab on something, it increases the price exponentially. I'll say actually probably put the word medical on anything and the price of something that is relatively cheap gets increased by like 10 times what the material costs to make the item. And this is one of those items. So these rehab skates are pretty expensive, that I think, for the materials that are involved. So I just kind of recreated it with cheap things that you can buy at the Home Depot or on Amazon. So before I get into how to make this, let's go over all the different ways that you can use this. So first, it's important to know what are the stages of movement recovery and what are the types of movements that are appropriate for each stage. Gravity eliminated is the stage or the difficulty of activities that you would do before you get to against gravity activities. So any movement parallel to the floor, we call that gravity eliminated. Anytime you move perpendicular to the floor, we call that against gravity. Obviously, when you go against gravity, you have the force of gravity resisting that movement. So when someone can't do something against gravity, we will usually go down a level and try and find a way to make a movement gravity eliminated, which happens to be movement parallel to the ground, and that's where this skate can come in handy. Now, one other beneficial aspect of a skate, other than the fact that you can move parallel to the ground with minimal friction, is that you can rest the weight of your arm or leg. They do make these for the leg as well, but this one's you couldn't use for the leg because it probably wouldn't support that amount of weight. But the other thing that we do is if we can rest the arm on something, sometimes you get less resistance from tone or spasticity. So what do I mean by that? Well, I could just ask someone to keep their arm in this position, right, hover it above the table and move the arm back and forth. However, there's work involved, or the perception of work involved to support the arm. So if we can come up with a way to eliminate that perception that someone needs to support their arm, sometimes that extra or unnecessary tone can reduce a little bit, and therefore you don't get as much resistance from that tone pulling the extremity in the opposite direction. So those are the two reasons that I really like some kind of a skate. Now, the other reason that's important is if you are doing exercises at home with any kind of a skate under your foot, it's important, or arm, it's important to continually remind yourself to relax the arm. Let the arm rest before you do the movement. It's kind of this fine balance between getting some of the muscles that have a little bit more tone in them or a little bit more involuntary contraction in them to relax a little bit so that you can facilitate movement or activate the muscles on the opposite side of the joint. So with any of the activities that we go over today, my strong recommendation is that don't just do the movement, which I call just kind of plowing through the movement and just kind of putting an all out effort into the movement, but really think about that balance that you're trying to find between relaxing certain muscle groups so that you can activate the muscle groups on the opposite side of the joint. So when your arm is resting in here, one of the most basic moves or maybe one of the most common moves that I do with it is just external rotation. So it's gravity eliminated because we're going parallel to the ground, because I can rest my arm in there. So a lot of you, when you go and try and move your arm does this motion. That's because muscles that are a little bit overactive are pulling the arm in the opposite direction. This is one way that might minimize those muscles on that side of the joint from pulling in when you focus on letting the arm rest. Okay? So now, if you are someone where you try something like this and your elbow goes out to the side, the suggestion is to just strap your elbow into your side in the early stages so that you can feel the movement. If you strap your elbow into your side and you still can't perform the movement, it's probably because you have a lot of tightness or what we call like adaptive shortening of the muscles that pull the arm into that position. And it means that you probably need to focus a little bit more on stretching. I've done a ton of videos on shoulder stretching, but that would be a way that you could identify, is this tone or is this an adaptive shortening? If it's tone, focus on relax. If it's that adaptive shortening, you probably need to focus a little bit more on the stretching. If when you strap your elbow to your side, you just absolutely cannot move it out to the side. Now, the next exercise that you can do with this is resting that arm in, shoulder flexion or reaching. Now, the thing that I like to focus on or have patients focus on with this one is that you aim off at a diagonal. Now, why is that? Again, for a lot of you, when you go to reach, your elbow automatically flares out to the side. Probably a combination of tightness and some overactive muscles pulling that arm into that position. So the goal would be to, whatever movement you don't want to happen, that you try and go a little bit opposite of that. So it's kind of like you overly correct in the opposite direction. And so for me, most of the time it works best to just tell someone to go off at a 45-degree angle when pushing that skate out to the side. Again, we're trying to normalize movement patterns. Having the elbow flare out to the side every time you go and reach it forward is not a normal movement pattern. So if you are someone that you can already reach, but you don't have that normalized movement pattern, this might be an option for you. And if that is you, what you want to focus on is relax. Relax. And almost just kind of let the arm fall out to the side a little bit. A lot more of those relaxed commands than more like move the arm out to the side or force the arm out to the side. It really, really does make a difference on how your muscles work together to actually execute on that movement. Most people that are high tone, I try to stay away from anything that's a strong active command. So you could probably use some of those same strategies at home if you're doing these exercises on your own. All right, now just to clarify, I typically always do these exercises sitting down to start. So even though I am standing, I do recommend that if you're in the early stages that you start to initiate movement sitting. It just makes your body a little bit more relaxed. Plus, some people have increased tone once they stand up. So start sitting and then always progress to standing once you master these movements in sitting. But one way that you can modify like a forward reach with a skate to make it a little bit more difficult is to angle the table. So now we are going uphill a little bit. So we are going against gravity a little bit. However, the arm is still supported, so it's kind of like less gravity. So this would be like an intermediate step on your way to performing like overhead reaching. So make sure you do have to put weights on the bottom of this table because a bedside table does get a little tippy. So I just have one end of the table up on a little step, and now we can make it a little bit more difficult because we're going uphill, but still something you can be successful at with a weak arm. Now, this is an exercise that I have shown in another video that I made recently, probably a couple of months ago, but now we're doing tricep extension with a skate. I think in the last one I used a couple of furniture sliders. I actually think this one works better because the wheels don't pivot, but it's just kind of like a ball and socket on the bottom on these wheels. And again, I'll be going over how I made this and where I got everything that I made this out of, but I do prefer these kind of ball and socket wheels because the movement, you can get a little bit of a smoother movement versus a wheel that's on like an axis that rotates. So again, just laying on your side, trying to keep your elbows stacked right over your body. So try not to have it out here, but try and have, again, that elbow kind of stacked right by your body. And then you're just moving that arm down. Now, the other one you could do in this position, if you wanted to work on overhead reaching, is straight up. So the benefit of doing this laying on your side versus what I showed earlier is that you can get a little bit more movement out of the arm when you're in this position versus having the table flat. You can't really get above shoulder height. So this would be a good position to work on that reaching more above shoulder height. Right, and then you could even move it up even higher to get even more movement above shoulder height. Now, for some of you, you might think that this movement is easy, but again, in an effort to normalize movement patterns, keep in mind if you're someone when you go to reach, your elbow flares out. This is a great way to practice not allowing that movement to kind of take over because your arm is resting. So you can really focus on keeping that elbow down. The benefit in this position as well is that you could add a weight to your upper arm, and it's not necessarily going to make the movement that much more challenging, but it will keep the elbow down. So let me show you what that might look like. All right, so I've added a weight to the elbow. And now I'm going to work on moving that arm up, and hopefully that weight is enough to kind of help to keep that elbow down. Now, one thing that I did add to this is I added a little bit of Velcro so that I could take this little gutter off the top. The reason I did that there are some movements you could do with the lower extremity. However, I'm going to get to making this, but these wheels are not meant to support. I think they only support like 5 pounds each. So it's definitely not something you can stand on. However, you can probably rest your foot on it and also work on the hamstring curls that I've shown in other videos seated, which are exercises that you can do to activate those hamstrings in the early stages. A lot of times I show it with a skateboard, but again, I did make this removable in case there were other things like this that I wanted to do with it, as well as being able to put a hand on it and kind of move it around with the hand on the skate instead of having the entire forearm supported. So just one other way that you might be able to use it. Again, you cannot stand on this. I looked at the weight limit of these little ball and socket wheels and they will not support someone's body weight. So definitely keep that in mind if you decide that you want to make one of these. But now let's go ahead and go through everything I used to make this so that you can make one for yourself and incorporate it into your home exercise program. All right, so let's start with this top piece. This is just, it's called like a drain extension. I did get it on Amazon. Now I did make a few of these, so it was worth it. I think it's $17 because it comes with like 2 pretty long pieces like this. So it's going to be a little bit of overkill for some of you. I perused the aisles at Home Depot and I couldn't find anything that was like this length and that was not metal. So that's why I went ahead and went with this. I will put a link for it in the description below. Now, one change that I will make on this is that it's pretty flimsy, but it came with enough that I could double it up. So I think if I double it up, that would add a little bit more rigidity to it. Also, the one thing that I added to the one I made for a patient, but haven't gotten enough Velcro back in stock yet to put it on this one, is I did put a Velcro, 2 Velcro straps on it on the top, and that seems to help to increase the integrity and make it not so flimsy. So that's one other thing that's not on this one that I added. And then on the ends here, this is just like craft foam. So I'll put a link for that in the description below. It's relatively cheap. You don't really have to buy the medical foam. I feel like it's going to stand up pretty well. And then also on the other one that I made, I also took some of that craft foam and put it in the bottom here, just because the person I made it for doesn't have Dyson at home. But what I do here is I just put a piece of Dyson down in there, the thicker Dyson, to kind of give it a little bit more padding. And then on the bottom, I just have some very heavy duty Velcro. I recommend that you buy the really strong Velcro. I've used this with a couple of patients, and when your movements get a little bit spastic, you don't want it to be rolling. So get the strong Velcro, spend a little bit of extra money to get the really extra strong Velcro. Now let's talk about the base. So this is probably the only thing I didn't buy from off of Amazon. This is just a piece of wood from Home Depot, back in that section where they have like trim and crown molding for your house. This is 1/8 of an inch thick. You don't want to go too thick because it just adds weight. So try and find, I wouldn't go to like 1/4 of an inch. I think this is 1/8 of an inch. Maybe this is 1/4 of an inch. But try and get this the thinnest that you can that still feels like it's durable enough that it's not going to crack. And then I just finished it with some varnish. And on the back, these are the wheels that I got on Amazon. And I think they're going to work pretty well. Again, they don't hold a lot of weight. I think the max weight for each one is 5 pounds. But they are self-adhesive. And you can buy a pack, I think, of 8. I think I bought a pack of like 24, but I think it comes in a smaller pack than that. And I would put multiple on there, especially in the middle, just to make sure that this holds up and it doesn't crack. And then, of course, just the 2 pieces of Velcro on either side so that this can stick back on there when I need it. And I can take it off when I want to do some of the foot exercises with it. Now, I will say what I was really looking for as far as the gutter is concerned, for any of you that have access to tools, was just using a piece of 5-inch PVC pipe and cutting it in half. However, I could not think of a way where without tools I could cut that PVC pipe in half. But I do think that the PVC would be so much better and it would make the integrity of this much stronger to prevent some of the little bit of give that this has in it. So if you do have access to tools, I would probably recommend using a piece of PVC pipe to add that increased durability. But then that is it for this video. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you like this kind of video, or you really just want exercises and you don't want to learn about my little DIY hacks, most of the time I'm just posting exercises. If you want to get exercises every week, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so that you'll get notified every time I upload new videos. Don't forget, we do have a membership program on our website that is only $5. With that $5 bronze membership, you do get access to our Discord channel where you can ask me questions throughout the week and you can also interact with other members, as well as access to any PDFs or handouts that I sometimes have as like supplemental material with these videos. In addition to that, it really does support this channel, and it just allows me to keep putting this content out there for free for a lot of the people out there that do not have access to physical therapy. So if you want access to the Discord channel, interacting with other members, or you just want to support this channel, visit rehab-hq.com and sign up over there for your $5 membership. Now, if you wanted to go a little bit deeper and take a little bit more ownership over your home exercises and really get yourself to that next level in your recovery, maybe you feel like you've plateaued, maybe physical therapy for you has ended, or your insurance benefits have run out, I strongly recommend that you check out our Gold membership program. With your Gold membership program, you will get access to an entire vault of exercises that I give to my patients that I see in person. In addition to that, you will have access to our monthly lives where you can submit questions in advance, and I answer those questions every month. To learn more about the Gold membership program, you can also visit rehab-hq.com. And then that is it for this video. I hope you guys found this video helpful. I enjoyed spending time with you all today, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day.